Hello everybody. I decided, because today it's just a cold day, I'm going to make yeast donuts, which is perfect because I'm going to make the dough for it, which you can use for maple bars, glazed. It's not a cake donut, it's the yummy donut. So the dough is good for all kinds of donuts that you like. So here's the basic recipe right here that we're looking at. You get about 1.5 cups of milk, put it in a saucepan with a 1/3 cup of shortening. You can use like Crisco or whatever, but I like the butter flavored Crisco because it just adds that yummy flavor. And put your burner on medium and let it sit there. While you don't want it to boil, but you want it to see where the shortening's starting to melt. That's exactly what you want. So we'll probably turn that down a little because we don't want it too hot, because you're going to have to add it to your yeast mixture, and you don't want the heat to kill the yeast. So over here is the yeast. 2 packs of quick rising yeast, and a 1/3 cup of warm water. I always add a teaspoon of sugar because it helps it move along really faster. It just gives it that extra punch. So to this bowl of yeast, you'll add a 1/3 cup of warm water. And when it's all finished, you'll add that milk that you have in the pot over there to the bowl. And we'll pick up here in a minute. Let me go get the milk and water to add to this bowl. Okay, so we're back again. Now you can see the shortening has melted into the milk, and it's warm. It's not hot. That's the way you want it to be. Then you come over here and you see now it's been about 5 minutes. The yeast has completely risen. You want to see that big fluffy top dome thing there that's all foamy, that's letting you know that your yeast is ready. So you're going to take your yeast with 1/3 cup of warm water, pour it into your mixing bowl. Look how foamy that is. Can you see down there? That's what you want to see. That just makes your bread just dreamy. Your bread's going to be fluffy and nice. Let's see if we can get a better view of that because it's just foamy. Then you'll come over here and you will take your shortening that you had. Now, remember, you don't want it too hot, but this is just right. I've already tested it. And you pour that mixture in with your yeast. And then you come over and you want to make sure you're trying to do this quickly. Well, it doesn't have to be quickly. I've already beat 2 eggs together because your next thing is going to be 2 eggs beaten. So you're going to add that to the mixture right away. That kind of cools it off also. And it says 1/4 cup sugar, but I have a sweet tooth, so I would make it a 1/2 cup, and I dump that in there too. And you're going to add 1 1/3 teaspoons of salt. Hang on here, I'm trying to pour out my salt. I guess I should have done this from the get-go. See? So, anyways, you're going to add that 1 1/3 teaspoon of salt. There's 1, and I'm just going to chuck in some salt because I can pretty much measure it out. 1 1/3. I don't want it too beat up there or salty because I added that extra sugar. And then make sure you mix it all up, and we'll be back and we'll add some flour and we'll get started with it. Now we're back one more time. Okay, this is the mixture with the yeast, the milk, and the sugar mixed. Now, the recipe calls for 5 cups of flour. I always pre-measure them and put it in a separate bowl because sometimes you want to add a little more, sometimes you don't need as much, so you never want to just dump the whole, if it calls for 5 cups, into your bowl because you might end up with a stiff dough, and you don't want that. So I always put it to the side and just take from the side in measurements of about a 1/2 cup. So it says to add half the flour to the mixture. So by using 1/2 cups, I will take half the bowl of flour and I'll put it in there, and then we'll get going again. So I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we're back. And so as you can see, there was 5 cups of flour in here, and I was always glad that you set your flour aside, never add it directly to your mixture. So this is 5 cups of flour. As you can see, it is still sticky. You have to make sure you add enough flour so that it's you can handle it with your hands and roll it out. So I rechecked the recipe, and it was done in ounces, which when converted, actually instead of 5 cups, it should be about 6.5, 7 cups. So I added 2.5 extra cups back to this bowl, and I will gradually add it to this until the dough is pliable and can be held in your hands and ready to roll out. So we'll start again here in a minute. Okay, and we're back. So as you can see, I rolled in the rest of the flour, or most of it. There's still probably a cup or so in here. But you don't want to add it all, like I said. As soon as you can get it pliable to where you can work it down and knead it, sprinkle a little flour on the surface of your table as you knead it, and just work it in, not too long, maybe about 5 minutes, and you'll get that soft, it should feel just soft and silky, and it'll be really pliable, because later on, after it rises, you'll be cutting out some chunks for whatever kind of donut you want to make. So, as you can see, now this is a nice round firm ball. You will then come over and take a clean bowl, glass bowl, whatever kind of bowl you have, and I always like to take just a drizzle of some oil, not too much, just like just a dab down there. And once you get it in, take a clean paper towel and just swirl it around and get it all up on the edges. And that way your dough don't stick, because you're going to have to rise. Okay, hold on 1 minute and I'll be back again. So now we have our well-oiled bowl. You don't want it greasy. You just want it lightly oiled so that the dough doesn't stick, because it's going to rise for a while. You take your dough and from the bottom, see where my hand is, set it in and flip it over like that into the bottom of the bowl. Kind of move it around, maneuver it around. Then you will take the dough out, flip it back up. That way the top part is oiled and the bottom part will be oiled. So we'll do that real quick and we'll be right back in 1 second. Okay, so now I flip the dough over. And you can see a little glistening on there. The oil is on that part. And this will help it because we're going to put some saran wrap over it. You can use a damp cloth or whatever you want, but I like to make sure, I like saran wrap because you can see the bread rising, and that's half the fun for me. So I'll be right back. I'm going to get some saran wrap and we'll cover it up and get it ready to rise. I got saran wrap on. I just loosely set it around. I don't really tuck it in because if the bread rises pretty good, we want it to not be stuck in there. And you can see how far down that is. So it should double in size before you check it, maybe about 4 minutes. And you should place it in a warm area. I say sometimes if you don't flip your bread and get that oil on the top, then maybe spray your saran wrap with some cooking oil or cooking spray so that it doesn't stick to the saran wrap once you take it off. But as you remember, I did coat it, and you can see the oil on the bread. And you're going to want to let this set for about 50 minutes. Now, if you don't have a place nice and warm to set it in, a trick that I do is I turn my oven on low, just on warm. Hang on here. So we put it on warm and turn it off. Then you just go ahead and stick your bread in that warm oven. It's not going to cook it. It's just going to keep it warm. When I lived in North Carolina, our garage was super hot, so I just have to set it in the garage, and that thing would rise like crazy. So here in Alaska, I'm not taking it outside, so I will stick it in my warm oven. The oven's already been turned off. So, like I said, just stick it in there and let it rise. In about an hour, we'll check on it. All right, see you later. Okay, now it's been an hour. We will take out the dough, and as you can see, it has totally risen. Now, that's what I say about making sure the saran wrap isn't tight and you oil it. The bread, see, now when I'm pulling it off, it doesn't stick. And let's just go ahead and remove that. You can tell now that this is doubled in size because it was way down there, and it feels wonderful. So we're going to get ready to roll it out, and then it's going to have to rise one more time. And it should feel silky and not stick to your fingers, so it's all good. Okay, and we're back again. I punched the dough down, rolled it out one more time. Hang on here. Okay, so now you can see it's smooth, and what we're going to do is take some more of this flour that we have here, take a cookie sheet. I'm all about let's clean up for everything. Sprinkle this cookie sheet with some flour. Let's do that and get it over with. Okay, you just want it so that when you roll out your dough, because we're going to roll it out now and make the shape. Then you can set the shape in your floured cookie sheet because it's going to have to rise for another 30 minutes. So I'll be back. I'm going to roll it out, cut it into the shapes, and then we'll be ready. All right, that's okay. Back. Now, as you can see, I rolled out the dough to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And if you look at it, when you roll it out like this, if you feel like switching up, you can use the same dough recipe because this is really fluffy, sweet bread. You can go ahead and add some butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon, and roll up and make cinnamon rolls. You just sprinkle it all on there, roll up from the edges, and cut into rolls. But like I said, we're making donuts today, so that's what I'm going to do. So there's the shape, and I will start cutting out the donuts. Okay, so we're back. We rolled out all of our donut holes, and they're just sitting in pans. We're going to put them back in the oven to let them rise. Remember what I said. Put the oven on warm, turn it off, let it get warm. You don't want it cooking them. You want them just to be warm so that these can all rise for 35 minutes. The donut holes we have over here, and whatever little chunk of dough that's left over that you don't want to roll out and cut into another donut, I just roll into little balls and put them in with the donut holes. And so you can make different flavors of whatever, but so yeah, you don't want to waste any of it. Donut holes, you got your donuts ready here, so we're going to stick them back in the oven to get rising, and then we'll start frying them. Right, now we have our donuts out. There's still some more in the oven waiting. I just leave them in there. And we will start frying our donuts. Now, I used to have a deep fryer when I was in North Carolina, but I gave it to my sister. But a standard pot, use a bigger pot or a little pot. I like a littler pot because it keeps the heat more condensed. And heat your oil up to 365. It doesn't need to be super deep, just enough that the donuts are not touching the bottom. Turn them over. Once they see that golden brown color, they rose really good. I have a place over here with paper towels to put the donuts in. These are cooking really good, and the 35 minutes that it took for these donuts to sit and rise, because they're doing really good. In the meantime, while those were rising, I made some chocolate glaze, vanilla glaze. Here are some almonds, or crushed walnuts, some coconut, and some cinnamon and sugar. So you can make different types. So let's get these donuts out of here. I'll make a couple and we're back. I don't know if I mentioned it before though, but it's imperative that you use fresh oil. Don't use oil that's already been used. We got them off over here cooling off, draining actually, because once they're drained then you want to move them over here to the rack. And I'm going to make this, because this is 6 of them, half dozen. And so what I like to do is I just like to take a spoon and drizzle on the chocolate, like so. Just drizzle it, because these are really hot still. And that way if you have it on a wire rack, the mess goes down to the bottom and it's not all over your counters or anything. So now you have this chocolate donuts that are there. So you simply pick it up. I'll pick up one over here. And you can dip it in your walnuts. See that? It looks really good. But while you're doing all this, you always have to remember to keep, and here's the one we'll put in coconut. There, that looks really good. So we got coconut and walnut. You got to remember, always keep an eye on your stuff. 365, you don't want to overcrowd your oil because you don't want the oil to cook up. If you put too many, they won't, and then you'll end up with greasy donuts instead of light, fluffy donuts. So keep an eye on them, and when you see them turning golden brown, just turn them over. Never put more than, I'd say 3, even because when I was in North Carolina, I had my deep fryer. I never put more than 3 because it takes the temperature down. So even if you use a big pot, maybe 4, but never overcrowd because you still want that that whole thing, you know, the heat. So we got a coconut one. We'll make another walnut. Just got to dip it in there, get it on there real good. Put that in your dish. We'll make another coconut one. And these are looking pretty good so far, and we'll just leave a couple regular chocolates in there. And then afterwards we'll try the regular glaze, which is that one. I like to make the donut hole, the cinnamon and sugar. So I always leave that for the donut hole. So I'll be back. Okay, so here they are, the finished product. We got some coconut, walnut, regular glaze, chocolate glaze. Still warm. I just took over a dozen or so to Pete and Johanna. And then over here is the cinnamon sugar donut holes. So even though you have like the little holes, I just take whatever little batter is left over and make donut holes. They're delicious. They're warm. And so there's the finished product, you guys. I think my next little web or video that I'm going to make is going to be how to make egg rolls. So maybe I'll get started on that tomorrow. But okay, so you guys try out the recipe and have fun because they are so good. All right, bye-bye.